In this video we are checking out the best aquarium gallery in the United States, Aquarium Design Group in Houston, Texas. We're going to get a full tour from the legendary Jeff Sensky, so sit back, relax and enjoy. So I'm here with the legendary Mr. Jeff Sensky.
Thank you so much, man.
Thanks so much for having me, man.
It's great to have you. Thank you.
If you don't know Jeff Sensky, he's one of the owners, together with his brother, the owner of Aquarium Design Group, and they're just celebrating their 25th anniversary.
Yes, 25 years. I can't believe it. It's gone by really fast and been an awesome journey.
So Jeff, I want people to get the full ADG experience.
Yeah.
But I also don't want this to turn into a 2-hour video.
Right.
So let's...
You got to rein me in early, so that's good. That's good.
Let's try, just a quick overview of every aquarium.
Yeah, for
Some
sure.
of the highlights. That's it.
So right away when you walk in, it's always been a big deal to me to see an aquascape first and not, let's just say, aquarium products. That can come later, but we want to be introduced to the beauty of aquascaping straight away.
Well, you nailed that.
So, well, thank you. Thank you. So 180 centimeter tank. It is still fairly new. In some spots you can even see where I still have the ferns just attached with some twist tie there. Getting close to being able to remove that, but I'd like to see a little more maturity from the plants. I tried to be a little less methodical and sort of maybe less balanced in how I placed some of the plants.
I kind of noticed that on the front here, on the side. There's quite a variety of plants, which I'm not really used to from your style. Right.
So I've just recently been very into this kind of follow me deep into the forest is kind of how it occurs in my head. And I'm trying to explore more of how to do that in a sort of a non-diorama type of way, though. I don't want to show sort of literal trees. I'm not trying to recreate a forest scene in that traditional kind of diorama sense, but something a little bit new for me. I'm really enjoying it, and it's one of those aquariums that I think the best is yet to come. It needs a good 9 to 12 months.
Yep.
I'm probably at about month 3 or so right now.
I would love the very patchy look of the Aquarium moss over here.
Yeah, I've never experienced these little tufts, little bits of it popping up here and there on the wood. I didn't put that there. I don't know. I've never had Riccardia sort of spread in that kind of way, but it's popping up all over the place. And it's one of those, we come across this in aquascaping a lot. It's just a surprise, just a gift from the nature unfolding in your aquarium that I'm grateful to have it. So a lot of people ask me about it. I have no idea. I've used a lot of Riccardia, never had to do that, but I'll certainly take it in this layout.
Yeah.
So several months to go, but so far so good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to, shall we talk a little bit about the counter?
Sure, yeah. Just a simple little take on a low-tech tank. For me, low-tech is very much, it's a very tight formula or recipe, as I've been calling it here recently, in that I'm just sticking with plants that are going to grow attached to the hardscape. I'm never going to use a soil type of substrate in a non-CO2 aquarium. That's just me. I don't want to have to put rooting plants in a soil, and I don't want to manage the soil's contribution to the water column. So I try to go for more impact and fullness from the hardscape, and then I'm just going to, I was calling it greening for a while. I don't know, this term hasn't really caught on.
Yeah.
I think it's cool, but I'm just greening up the hardscape. Buces, Anubias, moss. In this case, this Riccardia was just, I put it in there, a long time ago, just some little bits I pulled out of another layout, and they've just done very well there. Sometimes I try that in a very low light, low tech tank and it doesn't do so great, or it gets kind of stringy. I don't know. It's happy in there. So
Because it doesn't even have like a normal aquarium light. It's just...
It does not. I've always had an aquarium here because I did have this, which I've never even converted this to LEDs. It's just an old style halogen light. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I've always had very good performing, low tech, very simple layouts here on the counter. And this one has just been so easy, and you really don't do anything but wipe the glass, change a little water, and it's just been really great. I like to, I call it my countertop jungle look here. I'm loving the fusion of house plants and aquariums. Something about especially low-tech type tanks just seem to interface very well with houseplants, right?
I get that.
So many of the shapes of common hardy houseplants are similar to anubias, gooses, and things like that. So, yeah, it's just something that I really enjoy, and I think it just makes for a whole little scene that's very easy to do.
Beautiful.
And yeah, thank you.
And behind the counter, we have some beautiful, do we call it artwork?
Well, these are photos I've taken of layouts kind of over the years. Some of these have been around a very long time. They're going back, 15 years or more. And yeah, I'm actually reaching a point where I would like to refresh those with some more modern scapes, but some of them have become, somewhat recognizable. I think I've had them, used by other brands in their marketing and things like that over the years. And so, yeah, it's just to show a little bit more of the hardscape only style that we do, which is just very accessible for a lot of people. But we don't have a lot of that kind of content in the gallery. So I had kind of leaned into that more with some photos. When we're discussing a project with a customer, we can kind of refer to the possibilities of a non-planted freshwater aquarium as well with some good visuals.
Yeah, I think we have to remind the audience that we're not just not in any aquascaping store. We're an aquarium design group with a focus on design.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And yeah, I think it can be tough to really, let's just say, make it, especially in the U.S. market, as a only aquascape. All we're going to do is, traditional planted tank aquascaping. It's tough. That's a fairly niche market. It's not quite as developed in the U.S. as maybe other parts of the world. And so we've just found, from a retail perspective, including some other styles and hardscape only freshwater, saltwater aquariums, etc., is just a better fit for a more comprehensive kind of retail environment. So, but the focus is still, and our heart is still with, of course, the freshwater live planted aquascaping style aquarium.
Of course, just like what we see right here, Jeff. This thing is wow.
Well, thank you.
This kind of reminds me of what I've seen in Japan most recently.
Well, and that's what I'm going for there, more of that nature aquarium style, or a real signature of that is going to be that very long-leafed version of narrow-leaf Java fern, of which there seems to be some variance and some confusion in the exact species and the availability. And sometimes you order a narrow leaf, and it's a different plant. It's not as wide as normal microstorms, but it's not this plant. So this was made famous, as to my knowledge in a way, by Mr. Amano. This is what's kind of anchored a lot of the large ADA installations, including the very famous aquarium in Mr. Amano's home. And so that is what makes it really, to me, a very important plant in aquascaping, and definitely, one of my all-time favorite classics. And so, this aquarium too it's had its ups and downs. It's even at a point where, this very isolated area down here was some nice, the microtenalis.
Oh, yeah.
And, the flow is not great here. I wouldn't say there's an algae problem in the aquarium, but there's that fuzzy grows on the leaves down there. Very challenging algae to truly eradicate once you've got it. And, it's taken me some time, but I have learned to just accept some of these things. It's not ruining the layout. It's not a rampant problem. I understand why it's there.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I've made peace with it as just part of this aquarium. And that's been a very helpful process for me to not be obsessing over every strand of algae that pops up, right? So
I appreciate you showing the audience that not even Jeff Jansky is not perfect.
not even remotely. And I could take action. There's techniques I could possibly try to get rid of that. But at some point, you know, if I'm just enjoying the whole scene, you know, there's some algae can lend to even a more naturalistic feel, right? I agree. That can be a case-by-case situation, but in this case, I'm just not that bothered by it.
Good. We have some smaller displays over here.
Yes.
I quite like this one, actually.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've had another little algae problem in there. I'm just getting to the other side of it. Again, kind of that fuzzy sort of it comes off fairly easy. Has been on the grass, and I've just been working on just classic kind of manual removal and a lot of water changes. My problem in here, that these beautiful, I think they're calling it a super blue carry-eye tetra, and I love these fish. I think they just go so cool with the Hakai stone. However, they will, I don't think they're eating them, but they will attack a mono shrimp.
Oh, really?
So very aggressive. You putting any shrimps in there, they are just going after them. So there's been a good number of shrimp in there. You can't see a one. I think they hide all the time. I haven't found many of them dead. So I think it's one of those when you take the layout down in the future, you discover you have a lot of shrimps under the hardscape. So what is my point? Well, those shrimp would normally manage that algae. You can see there's not a big algae problem in the tank. There's what I call that algae problem in the tank. And there's just the one, and it's a soft algae that I know shrimp would eat, but in this case, these tetras, which I'm just loving too much to swap out for something else. They're really cool. I just watch them, and when a shrimp would pop out, they would just go straight to it, trying to attack it. So that's been a little bit of I think a reason why I've gotten into a little algae trouble in there.
Makes sense. Now we're moving on to, or moving away from the aquariums.
Yeah, the Paludarium or the Foresta style here is just man, I just love these things. I'm calling this the new starter kit, right? Like this is so much easier than you would think. And plants that are going to grow on the moss wall are going to really grow there, right? So if you've just made the right choices from the thousands of possible choices, a lot of plants you're getting from a pot of soil, they've adapted to a pot of soil. They would much prefer to be in this kind of environment. So it's just very effective. They're very simple. The visual impact is obviously coming less so from the water portion, and you know, the nature of these systems is that it's providing that constant water flow and humidity, which is what the plants want. And so there's just not a lot to do. And water changes are obviously very small, very minimal. And obviously we're sticking with your super low-tech plant selections down there. I'm to a point where I'm almost exclusively Anubias in these, just because they just seem to be the happiest. Of course, Booses would work just the same. But it's really about kind of the whole scene. I love using endlers in here. As long as I keep the water level about this point, I don't have a problem with them jumping out. Some people have reported that. These have all been in there for a good while. I've had previous layouts, endlers for a very long time, no major jumping issues, but I know some people report that they do. But, you know, it just is a fish that seems very happy in this small amount of water. Totally domesticated fish. You start trying to put wild nano rasboras, etc. They're hiding, they're timid, they're hard to feed. So I love just working with the different endlers in these, and just a very enjoyable, interesting, you know, there's such that multi-dimensional effect you can do with them. And just really enjoyed a lot. We've been getting a lot more into the terrarium space too.
We actually skipped two of them.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So here is, this is new. I want to finish this out with some, ready-made terrariums in these slots here. I'll be working on that in the coming days. But
so this is not just decoration, people can get
right, no, these will be for sale. Kind of taking a cue from the ADA laboratories in Japan. They're stores where they're obviously going, leaning heavily into the DUA line and the various things you can do with a more of a terrarium, wabikusa, all of these different concepts. And I'm just finding a lot of interest, especially, trying to take a little more of an aquascaping approach to a terrarium. I'm finding people are really responding to, maybe it's something they want in their office and they're away on the weekends. Obviously they're not at work and they don't want to come back to a situation with an aquarium, but this can give them some of that same feeling without the maintenance of the water aspect of it. But the Paludarium style to me is really coming of age, and the plants, the availability, the techniques, and we're really enjoying that a lot.
It's good to see.
Yeah.
Okay, we're a lot of variety. We did freshwater aquascaping, we did paludariums. Now we have a little bit of saltwater as well.
Yeah, true. So, this is a newer layout here too. Just attempting to approach something like a shallow tank and just using a canister filter. And the tank's done very well. Everybody's been very, very happy. Today is one of those days where the anemones are they're not quite at their full presentation. Usually that's telling me I need to clean the filter. It's just a canister filter on here, which is obviously not conventional equipment for a saltwater tank. No. And a lot of times when I see that, it is a nutrient export issue of such a small amount of water and a pretty good amount of biomass in there if you consider all the anemones plus the clownfish and the feeding, etc. So, not making excuses, but this is, I see this sometimes after a run of they're just really so open and really looking fantastic. And then they'll appear like, we're not so happy. And I just try to respond to that by improving water quality, cleaning the filter. And the overwhelming majority of the time, sure enough, in 48 hours, they're back to kind of full presentation. So,
nice.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned that the one next to it is only like a couple days old.
It is. Today is a Wednesday, and this was done on a Sunday.
Wow.
So just a few days in. The tank had been running with some rock in it for a good while. So there was a cycling component had just sort of taken place. Certainly wasn't a lot of biomass in there. But I personally, coming from more of a freshwater aquascaping background, I can't help but I kind of infuse, I feel like when I do saltwater tanks with more of that style. And I like structures like this, and I like some open space, and I'm not really trying to collect coral and display my coral collection, but rather just to make a pleasing composition of corals that I know I'm no coral expert, but I've worked with a lot of these enough to know that they're going to open up and appear pretty established and healthy pretty fast, right? So this is a good kind of immediate impact thing where I can really stock the tank rather heavily, but again, relative to the size of the tank, there's not, there could be a lot more coral and animals in an aquarium this size. So, it's a little bit of a balancing act, but you can get kind of a nice little composition that's going to mature and evolve like anything else. I understand the green star polyp could become a nuisance, take over, etc. Those are some large pieces of it that we had. And in my experience, once it's fully attached and growing, I'm just going to manage that growth with some removal at the edges and those the point I would be making is that you don't want to let it go so far that it's just encasing everything and then try and deal with it. So Yeah, and some of that too, sometimes I find a better piece for that location before it's really attached heavily, and I'm simply going to remove it and place something different there. But I'm a lover of even the simple LPS corals and
so
just
good.
little compositions like this. I find enjoyable and relatively easy to keep.
Yeah. Jeff, I want to move on to this big boy right here.
Sure.
This is, I mean, I'm speechless, honestly.
Well, thank you, man. And so really just trying to pay homage to the classic iwagumi style, simplify as much as possible. Could I do it with just 3 stones? Could I do it with just a single carpet species, just a single fish species? Yeah, it's been not only enjoyable, but just something so many people have never seen before. So many people that come in have never had exposure to this style, and they can know nothing about aquariums at all and just be really struck by the fact that you can grow, an end-to-end carpet of grass like this in an aquarium. So yeah, there's a lot of challenges when these aquariums are new. Obviously, you've got a lot of possibility for algae, etc., and not a lot of plant mass in there to absorb it. So I'm in a bubble here. I can do these huge frequent water changes to manage that till it gets to a point like now where it's very low maintenance for many months once it's very stable. I did take a strategy here of much more tablet fertilization and very minimal water column fertilization. And that's been super effective. In the beginning, when I was dosing the water column more heavily with just the grass, we're almost every week taking a brush to the rocks.
To the rocks, yeah.
And once I switched over to this heavy tablet, very minimal in the water column, definitely no macros. Wow, I haven't touched these rocks in months now.
Really?
Yes, not a speck of algae. Not even a lot of algae-eating animals in here.
I've just seen a few plecos.
I do like the bushy-nosed plecos. Very small. I'll start them out really tiny, like smaller than an OCat size. And they'll get a little size on them there. Up to about the size of that guy, I don't see them harming plants for the most part. They're certainly not interested in eating hairgrass, right?
Good.
So might they get large enough that I remove them? For sure. But really, there's a few shrimp in there. I didn't do a ton of shrimp. And I've had to remove some Siamese algae eaters because I saw them getting so skinny. There just wasn't enough algae for them to eat. So I took them out.
Luxury problems, right?
Right. So from one issue of just letting the algae be there to another of going, wow, there's so little algae that we don't even need algae eating animals. That takes some time and some diligence, but you do get a nice window of time with this kind of layout when you really get it balanced where it's actually quite easy. So you pay the price in the beginning to have that run where you're just really enjoying it and just doing a drain and a fill, clean the glass. What else is there to do, right?
Nice.
So, could really enjoy the homage to the iwagumi style here.
I love it.
Thank you.
Jeff, could we just do like a quick rundown of the equipment on this aquarium?
Yeah, for sure. So this does have, there's 2 ADA Superjet ES2400s on there, which is, it started with 1, and I'm always trying to run an aquarium with 1 filter. But sometimes you just go, wow. In this case, I was seeing a very unbalanced growth. One side was just growing so differently from the other. We did at one point have a pretty severe green water outbreak in here, which is just random and happens. So we did incorporate a UV sterilizer, and we've just kept it on there. We could remove it at this point, I'm sure, but we just kept it there. So one of the filters is driving the water through the UV sterilizer, but that's not what I would call standard equipment for us. We used it to remedy the green water. Theoretically, one of these could run the tank, but we wanted a very balanced growth, so we did add the second filter.
Yeah, and the really strong flow, it also adds to the beauty of the aquarium, in my opinion.
Well, thank you.
Especially when you see how the hair grass is getting like just getting pushed down. You know?
Right.
That looks so good.
And even there, you know, it's you've got a lot of flow there, not so much in the middle, the growth, you know. So yeah, when you're looking for that even growth end to end, sometimes, especially in a larger tank, that second filter is really going to be the way.
Shall we move on to this corner over here?
Sure. We have the two iterations of a 90 centimeter tank, a 90U, which is a really different animal from a 90P.
Very tall.
90 centimeters, but yeah, the width and the height make it to me, just this very chunky kind of feeling where it makes me less inclined to do layouts that are kind of panoramic or, you know, sort of stretched out.
Yeah.
This was a case of just, I had, at the time, I had so much wood and I had very little stone layouts. And I also was a little low on stone in my inventory, if you can believe that. And so we had these huge pieces of just classic dragonstone. And yeah, that's just a simple 3-stone kind of arrangement I went with. My original vision was this red tiger lotus in the back.
Yeah, I
to grow to the top.
I just noticed that.
And it's never done it. And it's so bizarre. Big, huge leaves, very healthy. It has never grown past that point there. I've tried tablet fertilizer. I feel like there's sufficient light. I don't know, man. It's just one of those. That was my whole vision, was the nice leaves on the surface, which usually it does, but here it just won't. And, you know, so it goes.
Maybe the strong light is the issue. That's why it's staying more compact.
Could be. I mean, relative to some of my other layouts, it is at a lower intensity. Okay. But nonetheless, it hasn't done it. And now I'm at a point where it's a layout I don't intend to keep around forever.
Okay.
I don't really want to trim that big, dense mass of the Ludwigia over there.
Yeah.
I love that Ludwigia, and this was like so little original planting of that plant there that's grown into this huge mass. But and this really wasn't my vision either. It's just the way it's kind of evolved. I leaned into it. I don't know how these kinds of layouts look on camera a lot of times, but in person, there's something that works there for me. But that being said, a lot of what I do here in the gallery is I need to get a layout going in this aquarium. I have a core idea. I'm going to execute with the resources I have available and enjoy it while we can, and let it reach a point where we just kind of know, okay, we could do something new here. So this one is probably getting to that point. Honestly, all three of these would be, I think, this year will be redone.
Okay.
This one is just really, it's a lot of maintenance. I know what I'm getting into when I put this white sand down there. Okay. We sometimes will, on a daily basis, we will just do it's a few gallons of water.
Yeah.
And we're just going to do a quick siphon of the debris down there. That gets a little insane. I admit it. And I know, this is not, I'm not trying to tell everyone they should have this or oversell that concept. It's something I do as kind of a creative decision. I know what I'm getting into. I'll manage it until I get tired of it, and I'll do something new there.
It's not something you would recommend to a customer.
Not without going, look, this is going to require a lot of maintenance, right? So a lot of times people, oh my God, that sand. I know. I've been doing this long enough to know if I put white sand in, I'm in for some serious maintenance. So to keep it nice anyway.
Yeah.
So
it does look stunning though.
Well, thank you.
The two islands.
Yeah. This is an uncommon stone. Comes from the famous Tom Barr.
Oh yeah.
What he calls a Hefe stone.
Hefe.
And I like its kind of cool feeling. That's why I had kind of referred to this one as sort of a fire and ice theme with the red plants, but that more cool stone. It was another one. This is why did I even choose those plants in the back? At the time, I had so much overstock. I had so much inventory of the Limnophilia and this beautiful Ludwigia. I had bought it at the time as it was Peruviana. Now, this was not a name I was familiar with before. I've seen that same Ludwigia called a couple of different names, I want to say. I knew it as glandulosa, but maybe that's not
That's how I know it as
Right,
well.
right. So anyway, I had a whole bunch of it in stock. It was, the end of the weekend, not enough of it sold. That's why I used it, to use it up.
Yep.
It wasn't any grand vision of a layout or any something I sketched out and I'm going to execute each thing. It was just, I had a hardscape. I used up plants I had around it and made something that we've enjoyed for some time. And now, though, the maintenance of this tank definitely has me ready to do something new in there that's easier and less frequent, but nonetheless, an enjoyable layout, and that's always the goal.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I really like this one, Jeff.
Oh, thanks.
I recently just became a fan of this background plant, the Persicaria. I don't know why, but I think it's beautiful.
That is another plant. You can go way back into book 1 and very early Amano works, and he's using that plant. Now, they called it for years, I knew it from ADA as Polygonum SP Pink.
Okay.
Now it has a different name, probably a more proper name. But very challenging to find. This has been, for as long as it was around and Mr. Amano was using it, it was a challenging plant to find. I've acquired what I have from hobbyists, not from commercial suppliers. Sometimes that perplexes me. It is such an easy plant. Really, if you've got CO2 in a good light, it's going to grow. It is. I've harvested so much out of my original 5 stems, but it's such a role player, right? It's just one of those stems, kind of in a category unto itself, between the color, the way it grows, the way you can trim it. In some ways, this was just a place to keep it because I didn't want to lose the plant. It's kind of just textured with the Eriocalon feather duster.
There's the grass in between.
Yes, such a unique plant. I'm glad I'm seeing it finally commercially available. I'm getting it from the ADA in tissue. In a unique culture, they actually have it in a bag of liquid. Very ingenious way of providing this plant. And because I think these plants only have a submerged form. Like this plant can't be propagated immersed.
Yeah, like Blixa, for example.
Making it is tricky to propagate on a commercial level, and very ingenious way of doing it that ADA has. And it's just so cool because it gives you that thin, fine grass, but no runners. It's not invasive. Exactly. It grows rather slowly. It just never becomes a nuisance. And
it's different from the giant hairgrass.
Different from that. Different from any other Valnana or Cypress helferi or any of those tall grasses we'd use in the background. It's just a very, very unique plant. I absolutely love it. And I'm so glad we can finally get it.
Shall we move on to this behemoth?
Yes. So we're just a few months in on our new reef installation. This took a long time. The previous system and reef tank was here almost 13 years. And it was just, especially on the reef side, that technology is always evolving and changing very quickly. And after 13 years, we had equipment on there that you couldn't even buy anymore, was just, discontinued, et cetera. So we completely did an entirely new system, new aquarium, new lighting, everything. And we're about 3-ish months in on stocking. So this style of reef will, on average, will need 2 years to really be fully stocked and at a level where it feels mature and has some sense of being complete. So we're really just getting started on it, but we've got the hydros dosing system there. You can see the level of automation and sophistication that can be really, is it entirely necessary? Well, I mean, no. People have done amazing reef tanks without this before, but a lot of what we're trying to show here is a product for a custom installation client.
Yeah.
So that's where automation, auto dosing, all these things. This is not someone that's a hobbyist per se. They just want to enjoy the aquarium in their space. Our technicians will be there. Generally, an aquarium like this would be once per week. And obviously, we need things to be stable and consistent between those weekly visits. So that's where a lot of the automation comes in for us. Plus, at this size, this scale and volume, the auto dosing features in a very calibrated situation is just best handled by a system like that, as opposed to trying to manually do it anyway. So, just 100% custom fabrication throughout.
What's the total volume?
Around 750 gallons.
750 gallons.
And then we're loving the Kessel track lighting system here, just to completely eliminate cables coming down and lights suspended over an aquarium like this. Very, very unique, calibrated to this aquarium, to its distance to the ceiling from the bottom, and just really very state-of-the-art, one-of-one lighting situation. And we're still in the design phase. There's a lot of debate about how to finish the cabinetry. I think we've pretty well decided to leave the top portion as is, but we'd like to do some kind of panel that does give you a little peek into the equipment below, maybe something just a little bit transparent, maybe a frosted or backlit kind of effect. So we still do plan to do magnetic panels, but with some kind of cool material. In the meantime, a lot of customers, especially our more dedicated reef hobbyists, enjoy getting to see the equipment down there and everything. So there's kind of an element to that, but
there's definitely an element that it looks like a machine,
right?
A machine and like a Bitcoin mining setup.
Oh no, that's a good one. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, totally.
Insane. Okay. Well, we have a whole nother area to cover.
Cool.
Maybe we can just quickly go over this.
Yeah. So
one. There's a lot of reflections, but we can just quickly show it.
So our fire eel display here, they're just used to coming out much later in the day. It's kind of a thing we got into, feeding them at the end of the day. And now that's just kind of their circadian rhythm in here. But these guys are just so cool. They're so fun.
How many do you have
and
here?
There's 7 in there altogether.
7, wow.
And varying sizes. And it's another one, sometimes we're very patient with how we add fish to an aquarium like this. So the focus and feature is definitely the fire eels. And here I even tried to kind of mimic their shape a bit in the pieces of wood I chose. I found these pieces that I felt like even the tips of the wood had the look like an eel's.
Going up to the surface.
This was kind of what I was going for. This one over here even kind of has what looks like an eye on it, maybe, right?
Yeah.
So
that's so cool.
It's subtle, but it was just trying to play into their theme. I'm sure we'll be able to capture a little B-roll later when they're all out for feeding, and it's just too much fun.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a puffer as well.
Yeah, and that's, he is healthy as a horse. This is just such a normal thing. That's his chill spot.
Yeah.
And trust me, come feeding time, his belly is as full as it could possibly get. And I think that's why he needs to go over here and rest a bit sometimes. But we're still trying to really figure out a few other fish or another group of something for this layout. In fact, if anybody has any ideas, I'd love to see it in the comments. Any suggestions for other fish they think might be cool in here. So it's really about the eels first, but because they spend a lot of time just being comfortable down there, chilling out during the day, it would be cool to have a little bit more activity up here in the water column, but Yeah, you can see they're getting it. They're starting to go. Wait a minute, there might be food coming.
Are you tricking us, or is it actually happening?
They're a little hip to me. I did this tapping so long to get their attention. They're not as fooled by it as they used to be. They know the difference between tapping and actually getting food now. But yeah, and this is just a nod to a large freshwater custom installation product.
Yeah, exactly.
That we just try to do interesting and conceptual things with hardscape with.
Nice. Well, Jeff, it's hard to pick a favorite in the gallery, but I think this one is definitely in the top rankings for me.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And yeah, it's been quite an evolution. It's gone through I would say the marginal and immersed plants have been the thing that's been kind of the most evolving and changing over time to really kind of get a settled composition, if you will. Mm-hmm. It can be tricky at times when, plants like this, which I don't know what it is exactly, and it was just locally collected, but it can really take over.
Yeah.
And so it gets these, I had it really tall with these huge leaves just shading everything. So you're cutting that back and, to reach a point where I feel like it's a stable composition. And now I'm really just maintaining that composition, right? Like I kind of, everybody has their spot, and I know the amount of trimming and everything. That took some time. And so, yeah, I approach the shallow style, especially when you're in something a little larger. This is 90 centimeter shallow, with a different mindset. I'm more open to figuring out what's really going to work, unless it's a very limited species. But in this case, I wanted some variety. I'm trying not to make it overly symmetrical, but it's a layout that does want some balance on the two sides, right? So
for sure,
even little things like not letting this area get too full. I'll find sometimes it's been overgrown there. I'll trim things back, and then I'm going, oh wow, I forgot I've got a cool little path to further separate. The plant was looking cool, but the composition as a whole was a little choked up by letting the plants grow too much back there. Or sometimes you trim something away and you're like, oh, I forgot there's this cool thing underneath it. Or sometimes it's these where this wood is coming out of the water. I have no memory. I couldn't tell you how this Ricardia grew on the wood throughout the layout like that, and is fairly consistent at all these points.
Yeah.
Looks great. I cannot take credit for that. That's something that kind of developed on its own and is just done very well. And sometimes I've let plants grow in a way that when I do decide to trim them out, I'm like, oh wow, there's a cool little scene over here. I've been letting this grow for some broader balance, but if I trim it away, I find there's something else to peek at under there. That's a lot of fun. That takes a lot of time and a lot of patience, though, to get to that whole little, I really feel like I'm at the water's edge, and things have evolved on their own there, right? So,
Jeff, am I correct in saying that from this build, from this aquarium, there's actually a video on your YouTube channel?
There is. Yeah. This goes back to one of my many attempts to, when I'm convinced I'm going to become a big-time YouTuber. Here I go. I'm going to do it this time, everybody. And I make a few videos, and I get too busy, and something happens, and I stop. But so there is a cool build video. Myself and Austin Kwan do the layout. He's especially essential in the hardscape construction, because to have the soil all the way to the top here, so these marginal plants just have about that 1 inch of going into the water. That's quite a dam structure you need to build with the hardscape. So that's where we get into some spray foam and some broader techniques to prevent soil over time spilling into the front. So this is a pretty steep drop off to the front where we really don't get any soil spillage because of all those steps that you can see in the video, where we're just sealing it up completely back there. You can really see this is radically different from what we started with, and that's just an evolution and an interaction with the layout to reach a whole new place than where you started.
I think it would just be cool for my audience to see how you work and how you set up aquarium. So
well, thank you.
They should definitely check it out.
Appreciate that.
Let's turn 180.
Yeah.
This one on the right is quite special, right?
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's, you know, these they start out as a bit of an experiment. You know, there's always an interesting story. This ends up here because I moved, and this was a stand I had custom made for my house to sit in a certain spot. Okay. And it's lower than a standard stand, as I had it made to a specific measurement. And I don't want to put something here because of the position of these thermostats. You know, I don't want the lights or anything to come up and block that line. So I'm going, well, I have this low stand that will fit in the gallery fine. And you know, if I put a light up here, it starts to get a little into this line, and backlight panels have become such a cool thing. They seem to be kind of popping up everywhere. It's just a cool way to add that dimension to a rimless tank. And so especially you put the backlight on there and you're going, well, you know, that looks kind of cool. Maybe we can just skip the light on top and kind of lean into that design. I originally started with some black ghosts in here, the captive raised black ghost. You can get very small. They come, you buy them in a group. They're a little aggressive towards each other, but nothing like a wild-caught black ghost where, you know, two wild-caught black ghosts in the same 20-gallon tank are going to fight probably to the death. I find the captive raised ones just don't do that. But in this case, I just felt like for a visually interesting group of black ghosts, the tank was a little small. So we moved to just a group of, again, captive raised glass cats.
I think it's such a great choice for this aquarium.
And it just becomes an interesting sort of fun thing. We've had a couple of customers replicate the tank.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And, you know, it's conceptual. And I know not, this is certainly no biotope. This is certainly no aquascape. But for me, it's just a different way of thinking about the aquarium. I find when you limit the species, and again, we're dealing with captive raised fish. So this is a very highly domesticated animal at this point where they seem quite content to just eat whatever you feed them and not be bothered by other fish, and kind of have the space to themselves. These have been in there a very long time now. And it's just something we enjoy doing, and just shows a little wider spectrum of possibilities for customers and people. For, you know, live plants can come with their challenges that may not be for everyone. And so I'm always trying to look at ways to make interesting and effective aquariums for anyone who wants to enjoy an underwater scene in their space. So that's kind of what these ideas are born of.
So one quick question. What's with the raised lily pipe, for the extra oxygenation?
Yeah,
or
just for
surface?
Exactly. A little bit of both, but because there's just one in and one out there, and we don't have photosynthetic activity, we don't have quite the ecology in an aquarium like this that we would in a planted tank or a tank with gravel and it's something that we just do exactly for extra aeration and just to make things a little more stable and hopefully enjoyable for the fish. So we'll sometimes put it down a little bit more than that, but we do tend to keep it kind of at the surface, keeping some surface agitation. I felt like a skimmer was needed kind of on that opposite end too. We could sometimes get a little bit of a circulating, you'd get that little circulating spot of an oily film on the opposite end of such a long tank.
Okay, yeah.
And that's just to help manage that. Something about it kind of maybe fits into the minimalist sort of theme of it, but
definitely does.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a few left.
Yeah, this is a 120U, about 120 gallons, and this started out as hardscape only. I am so desperate to keep this narrow-leaf Java fern growing that I'm finding anywhere I can to put it, and had a bunch of it I'd pulled out of a layout and went ahead and added it to this aquarium as kind of an afterthought. You know, this is just an example too of just trying to show a little wider spectrum of possibilities. This was a unique piece of wood, came from a client's aquarium. They had to redo the aquarium. This came out of it. And this client had an amazing collection of plecos who had a lot of the wood-eating types as well.
Yeah.
And so they have literally sculpted this wood. This is a piece of the Texas Select wood that we've been using for years and years. You never see it like this. This is a very unique presentation of that wood type. One of one, sculpted by an impossibly awesome pleco collection that was for years chewing on and eating into the, and just kind of sculpting it out.
They've just
and it was
polished
just
it.
very finely preserved when it came out of the tank. And I said, well, it was a single piece, right? So I was just like, okay, I'm just going to display this for a while.
Yeah.
And it dropped into this tank. I mean, you know, many people may know I'm a huge fan of the wood coming out of the aquarium. It's just something I've always really enjoyed. And for me, it's as much about just enjoying this piece of wood and then kind of building an aquatic scene around it, really with the amazing WEO line. I just started playing with a different way to texture the bottom instead of just traditional sand and gravel. I think there's 5 or 6 different products mixed in there. Just an experiment, just exploring the way these things could come together and maybe make something kind of different. We have a big, exciting plan for this wall that I expect us to complete this year.
Okay.
Really large scale paludarium we're going to do here, right? With the drip wall and the really should be something special. And
so like a bigger version of what we've seen over there.
Exactly. Yes. We've really gotten into that style, and just our love of houseplants and those tropical stuff, the philodendrons, the anthuriums, and those plants that integrate into those moss and drip walls so well. We're really excited for the project we have planned for here. So, you know, for now, I'm just letting this be. But that's something exciting coming up we're really looking forward to. So this also shows somebody that they've got a hardscape tank for the low maintenance, and maybe at some point they decide to add some plants. Could I add other anubias? Of course I could.
Of course.
Why am I not doing that now? Well, I have a project coming up. There's no point in me investing further in the layout for now with a pending project here, but the takeaway is that, of course, that hardscape only style always has that option to add plants to it later, and that's kind of what I did here. And very low maintenance. I mean, this is just really cleaning the glass. You're just doing a water change. I mean, anyone could do it, right? Yeah. This isn't all of the factors of aquascape management and maintenance practices are really, you don't have that here, right? So what are we doing? We're trying to create visual interest in other ways, right? That's this sculptural piece of unique wood in a larger aquarium, and enjoying some schools of fish. And we're not trying to, win the IAPLC this year or anything with it. So,
well, if there was a category for hardscape only or very minimal planting, this would definitely take the cake.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you.
Let's move to the final corner.
Sure. Yeah, here too we're trying. This is fairly new. We had this 9-foot, much lower, is only 24 inches tall layout here for years. We had that system, and decided to go with kind of a bigger, kind of that wall of water sort of feeling. So we're still waiting on a really cool custom cabinetry to finish this layout. It's a finish I've never really worked with before, something very, very different. But yeah, we're excited. For the first time, we've got a tank raised Ultima Angels. And so they've only been in there, I guess we're probably 2-3 weeks in, just recently acquired them.
Wow.
And yeah, they are going in with a few of our old, these have been in several different layouts for us. And we were a little concerned about maybe aggression, etc., but there's been no problem at all. I mean, and you've got these big, beautiful Ultima, I mean, I thought, well, is it not a good idea to mix them visually, etc.? We said, well, this is just not a fish you can easily scoop out of there and just put somewhere else. So we've left them. It's been fine. This is one too. We still have a vision of 1 to 2 more species in there.
Okay.
But I think as these tank raised Ultims, which are just, I mean, they're just fantastic. I mean, they're
so cute.
And there's none of the traditional challenges of acclimating.
Yeah.
Ultima Angels. Once Ultims are acclimated and stable, I find them to be quite hardy, quite easy to keep, but it's that acquisition, acclimation, getting them kind of over the hump, if you will, that is really challenging with them in a lot of cases. For us, it has been anyway. So the availability of a tank raised fish like this, they've just performed like any other angelfish would. And we're real excited to, grow them to this big size and then have a nice large group of Ultims in there.
That's going to look amazing, yeah.
Yeah, so also I'm planning a swap of the substrate since we've added the geos and stuff. They're not digging so much, but there's just a lot of issues with the sand ending up piled up on one side, not the other. It's just a case where I go, after some evaluation, I'm going from a design standpoint, I'd prefer to have a little larger grain, maybe a fine gravel in there instead. So
something that's a little bit heavier and
little heavier, yes. So that's something we got coming up in there that I think will give, it's interesting sometimes how those small changes can really affect how we see a layout, right? Like you can really have a bigger difference than you think. So, I'm looking forward to that. But and here even too with the wood, I didn't want it quite so composed. There's something I still kind of want to put something here, maybe. But then part of me says, well, it looks like it sort of just fell down there. I don't know. It's sometimes I'm finding lately, I'm kind of leaning into the randomness of nature a little bit more and trying to have less sort of what looks like a human made the wood in a fan shape across the tank so perfectly, and kind of looking for the natural lines in some kind of way. It's like anything, it's an ongoing, you never stop learning or exploring or being interested in just the different ways things can come together in an aquarium. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, my SD card is starting to run out of space, so I think we need to wrap it up. I want to thank you very much for this amazing tour.
It's my pleasure, man.
I mean, we talked for an hour, and it's been a dream to come here. So thank you very much for having me and showing ADG to my audience.
Many thanks, man. Thank you.